Hey, how's it going everybody? This is Ryan here and you are watching Some For All, a place where you can watch some My Hero Academia CCG videos for all of you amazing people around the world. In today's video, I want to talk about the new Izuku Midoriya buffs, nerfs. You can tell me what you guys think it is in the comment section below, but I think he got a couple new buffs. Let's go ahead and talk about it now. So let's start off by talking about the original Izuku Midoriya that came in the demo decks a year ago. So he has a hand size of 6 with a vitality of 28 with 2 enhance effects. His first enhance effect allows you to once per turn name an attack zone, so high, mid, or low, and if your opponent's next attack matches that named zone, it gets minus 10 damage. His second enhance effect is also a once per turn clause, and you discard your entire hand, and the punch attack that you are using gets plus 10 damage. 2 really good effects. But let's take a look at the new Izuku Midoriya, the one that we can expect to actually use once the game gets released later on this year in the rival decks. If you take a quick glance, everything looks the exact same except the first enhance effect. So the first effect is not a once per turn, so keep that in mind. It works certainly in the fashion to where you name an attack zone, either high, mid, or low, but this time if your rival's next attack this turn matches that zone, it gets minus 3 speed. So essentially, the original Izuku Midoriya was a once per turn, and if you named the zone right, they would get minus 10 damage, while the new Izuku Midoriya, it works the same way, but it's not a once per turn, and if you name it correctly, it gets minus 3 speed. So now the question becomes, once per turn versus not once per turn? Automatically, an effect that's not once per turn is already really good. When you have an effect that's once per turn, your opponent can potentially bait it out, which innately makes it a little bit weaker than an effect that's not once per turn because you can continuously use it. So right off the bat, I take this as a buff. Now the next part of the effect, where you name an attack zone, that stays the same for both cards, right? But where it gets interesting is that with the new Izuku Midoriya, if you guess right, the attack gets minus 3 speed. Now this is where things get really fun and interesting, because instead of a card getting minus 10 damage, which don't get me wrong, that's nice, they get minus 3 speed. But because it's also not a once per turn, you can continuously use this every single enhance step and try to guess your opponent's attacks to get them to get minus 3 speed, which ultimately makes your opponent have to think. Because if you could keep guessing, they might have to play around it. Maybe they want to play an attack that's a mid, and you also guess mid. Now they're in a situation where they can't play that mid attack, or even if they do, they have to take into account that it's going to get minus 3 speed. There's a lot more of a mind game to it because of that simple not once per turn clause. And honestly, I feel like minus 3 speed is still really powerful compared to minus 10 damage. Like I said, minus 10 damage is no small feat. That's really good. But minus 3 speed will allow you to pass your control checks a lot more regularly while playing on defense. So it's still ultimately the same thing. Sure, you might have to give up a card, so your opponent might get a little bit more card advantage in that sense, but of course it's not once per turn, so you get to keep that mental mind game going with your opponent on them continuously losing that neg 3 speed and allowing you to keep up your defenses. So what's my verdict? Hey, I told you guys at the start of the video, I think that this is a buff, and I think that anybody that wanted to play Izuku Midoriya, whether you're a fan of the character in general, or if you were a fan of the card and you wanted to play it in the standard format, or in the My Hero Academia only format, I think you're pleasantly surprised with these changes, but I could be wrong. So again, let me know in the comment section below. Do you think this is a buff or a nerf? And we'll see how it plays out once the sets are officially out. But with that being said, guys, I'm gonna head out, but stay tuned because I have a ton of content coming out. The game is almost here, guys. Stay tuned.